The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is Jen Cruz, and this is the Journey Radio Show. Hey, I've got my fellow She-Squatchers on with me tonight. I've got Jena Grover. Hi, Jena.
Hello, everybody.
And Tammy Trickle.
Hi.
Hi. So we're all excited again to have all three of us on the show tonight, and we're hoping to make that a permanent thing now that Tammy's got a new laptop.
Maybe. I need to get a better camera. I'm looking a little pixely, but that's okay.
Right.
I'm here.
The radio people don't care about that. So anyway, we've got a fun guest tonight, a guy that we've known for a while now. I can't even remember how long it's been, but what, 2 years maybe? 2 or 3?
About 3.
3 years. We've known Kirk. Kirk Reed we've got on tonight. He's a longtime cryptid hunter out of Pennsylvania, right? Welcome
Correct.
to the show, Kirk. Come on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Very good. Very good. We're excited to have you on. So I know that you've been looking for cryptids. Yeah. I know you've been looking for cryptids for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your background. When did you start? How did you get into this?
Well, let's see. In 1977, on a hunting trip to West Virginia, I saw my very first Bigfoot. It was about 50 yards away, maybe 60 yards away. It absolutely blew my mind. I was an 18-year-old kid at the time. And quite frankly, for about 5 years, I never told anybody about it other than the people that were with me. They kind of thought I was nuts, but it left a burning hole in my soul to find out what it was that I saw. And since 1984, I've been, quite frankly, very thoroughly researching these, trying to find out exactly what's out there and prove it to the world. And I've never quit since.
That sounds fantastic. I know you've been looking all up and down the East Coast and all the way west to as far as Colorado. Is that right?
That is correct.
Awesome. Awesome. So I've seen that you've got over 40 casts, Bigfoot casts, that you've made over
Correct.
the years. And
Correct.
you've got some casts that you cannot be identified to what creature they come from?
That is correct.
What do you
I
think
have
they come
some
from?
that look like, well, I have some that look like giant dog tracks that are roughly 9.5 to 10 inches in diameter, that are way out of the realm of any dog known to man today. Then I have some others that are 3 toes. They're pointy toes. They're about 15 inches long and about 8.5 inches wide. That I don't have a clue what they are.
Very interesting.
What they are is beyond me.
Wow. Have you had anyone look at them, or have you put them out there on the internet and asked anybody for their opinions?
I've had many people look at them. I've had some ideas. The most common idea is that it's a Gugwe.
A what?
Gugwe, which is thought to be either a type of Dogman or a type of Bigfoot, but not really fitting into either category very well.
Now you've hit me with something I've never heard of before.
Yes, tell us more. I've never heard of that.
Okay, a Gugwe is nicknamed the Face Eater. Quite frankly, they're killers. They're, shall we say, the nastiest of cryptids. Most people do not survive an encounter with them. They're roughly about 10 foot tall, have the body of a Bigfoot and the head of a Dogman.
And how do you spell this?
Gugwe.
All right, I'm just going to type it in the chat room so I can look it up later.
Sure thing.
Awesome. I'm going to want to read all about that later.
Yeah, me too.
Very awesome. Very awesome. So have you ever seen one of these Gugwes in person or just seen their tracks? Or what you think are their tracks?
Unfortunately, yes, I have, and so has another team member of mine. I've only been about 100 yards away from one. My team member has been within 10 foot.
Okay. Do you know what language that word is from?
It's an Indian word. I want to say the Ute tribe, but I'm not 100% sure on it.
Because the WE at the end is pronounced way is that's how they would pronounce WE at the end in Ojibwe as well. But that's why I'm asking that. I'm gonna have to really look into that. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, you threw me for a loop there, Kirk. Good job. That doesn't happen. Does not happen.
Yeah, Jen she never gets thrown for a loop. She's like, bam, I'm on it. Bam, I'm on it. And this time I think all three of us were going,
yeah, none of us had heard of it. We're like, what?
yeah.
That's exciting to me. That is exciting to me.
New information.
Yes, yes.
I wouldn't say exciting. I'd say very scary.
Okay. So what happened when you saw it?
When I saw it, like I said, fortunately, I was ways away enough that I wasn't that afraid of it. Other than I wanted to get out of the area because, as I say, they are very, very dangerous. When you've got something 10 foot tall, 1,000 pounds, that you know has a reputation of it wants to kill you, it's not a good thing to be in that area.
Now, are you talking about the Gugwe?
Yes.
Okay, because I actually did find it online, and they said that it is a Bigfoot-like creature that's said to have a canine-like snout, and it's actually spelled Gugwe. So if you're looking for it online, that's how you spell it. But
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Say my one team member was within 10 foot of one that was about 11 foot tall.
Very cool. And what happened then? Did it see him? Did it have an aggressive?
They were face to face. He held the shotgun on it with a tactical light on. It just stared at him. All of a sudden the light went dark and both of them, him and the Gugwe, backed away from each other. I'm assuming the Gugwe knew what a shotgun was, but I can't be sure, and neither can he. And quite frankly, it took about a day before he was calmed down enough to actually even be able to put a sentence together.
Oh,
So,
wow.
That's very intense.
Yes.
Can you describe to me how you think that is different than Dogman?
Dogman is the ones that we have encountered, the ones I have encountered, and I've been within about 3 foot of one, are about 7.5 foot tall, 400 pounds or so, very muscular upper body, but very much a canine's lower body with bent legs, whereas the Gugwe is a Bigfoot type body. It looks like a human body, very, very large, very muscular, with a canine's head. The Gugwe, if it wants you, there's not a whole lot you're gonna do about it.
Okay.
Boy.
I don't think we want to meet one of those.
Yeah, that's not something I didn't. Yeah, we're definitely not wanting to meet that. But I'm excited to hear about it. Do you know how many sightings of this creature there's been, Kirk?
There have been very few. Quite frankly, very few people live through a Gugwe encounter to ever talk about it. As I said, its nickname is the Face Eater. They have a tendency, from all of my research and everything I've been able to find out, they will rip a person's head off. They will rip a person's face off. You will die if you encounter one normally.
Well, I definitely, like Jen said, I don't want to see it. Did you have a question, Jen? Sorry to interrupt.
I was just I see that. Thank you, Kat, in the chat room for posting information about the word the Gugwe. And it's a tribal affiliation is from Micmac. And I thought that there was a connection between the Micmac and the Ojibwe, so I was just cross-referencing that. And I see that the Ojibwe Indian monster name is Anawe. For the same creature. So I was just so I was just looking it up online real quick. So that was interesting for me. I'm really going to enjoy looking into all of that much, 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 much more later after the show.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes. Now I have something else to ask the native elders from our tribe. So, because I've never ever heard stories about that one before. Fun stuff. So we want to get back into Bigfoot a little bit more, and
Sure. Something fairly safe.
Yeah, that we know more. Well, I don't have a lot of back information to ask a lot of questions about the Gugwe. So you caught me. You caught me. So can you just share with us what some of your Bigfoot encounters that our listeners might be excited to hear about?
Sure. Like I said, the first one started, I was 50, maybe 60 yards away, watched it for about 2 minutes till it turned and walked away. I was scared to death. Like I said, I was an 18-year-old kid. Had another one, quite frankly, walking in the woods. Broad daylight, did not think I would see anything, wasn't worried about seeing anything or anything, and literally walked within 6 to 8 foot of one. And it startled it startled me. It just kind of stopped for a minute. I froze in my tracks. It turned off to the right and just walked away. If these things truly were aggressive as per se, it could have killed me with no problem whatsoever. But it really was not interested in that. It just it startled it startled me. My first Dogman sighting literally had a Dogman jump over the hood of my Jeep, land 3 foot outside the passenger window. The driver's window. I had the window down. It stood there for a couple seconds, looked at me, made a almost a smile with its mouth, turned around, bounded up a hill, 2 leaps, and it was gone. I had another encounter with one when I was on my 4-wheeler, literally rode within 15 foot of one. It did seem somewhat aggressive. Fortunately, I was able to outrun it on the 4-wheeler. I personally did not see it coming. The person I had on the back of the 4-wheeler with me kept saying, "It's chasing us, it's chasing us." Well, like I say, I didn't see it, but I was busy real heavy on the throttle to get away from it, so I was only watching the trail that we were on. I mean, that was my number one thing, to get the heck out of there.
Now, what about this most recent encounter that you were telling us about? Tell everybody that story. I know Jen hasn't heard it yet either.
Oh boy. Back in June, I was with my team, first weekend in June. We went to an area in Indiana County, Pennsylvania. We were all supposed to meet up about 1 p.m. To make a long story short, all of us got there late. I didn't show up till 5. One of the things that I do in our hunts, I'm kind of, shall we say, the camp cook. I use the smell of the food that we cook to help bring these things in. Well, none of us got there before 5:30 p.m., so everything was very hurried. I got the smoker out of the back of my Jeep, went ahead, got the food on cooking. I was smoking a pork shoulder, which usually takes about 8 hours. As I said, it was 5:30, so I was real rushed for time. I did not get to set my tent up. We knew it was going to be colder that evening, so I figured, well, I'll go ahead and sleep in the back of my Jeep. My Jeep is a Jeep Liberty, one of the large ones. So I figured I'd just go ahead and fold the back seat down, lay out in it, cover up with my sleeping bag. Well, it actually had been the first time I ever tried to do that. And when I did, I'm about 4 inches too long to stretch out in the Jeep. So when I went to bed, I had to leave the tailgate up on the Jeep. It was 45 degrees out, and quite frankly, it was cold. So instead of getting in my sleeping bag, I covered up with my sleeping bag with it doubled up. I was covered from head to toe, had my head covered. I was completely dressed, had my boots on, just anything I could do to stay warm. And like I said, it was cold out. We didn't eat till about 11:45. We sat around the campfire for a little bit. About 1 o'clock, we all went to bed. And like I said, that's when I crawled in the Jeep, went ahead, covered up completely. I was sleeping long about 4 o'clock in the morning. I instantly woke up to something grabbing my right ankle. It was definitely a very large hand. And before I could even get the covers off my head, my leg was lifted up and slammed back down to the point where it was with such force, my entire body bounced. I truthfully thought it broke my leg. Of course, I shouted out, screamed. My team, Tom and Lori, they were in a camper about 40 foot away from me. Troy and Tony were in a camper about 100 foot away. By the time they came out, there was nothing there. I couldn't walk. I really couldn't move. They were unsure what happened. I truthfully could not, for probably 10 minutes, put together what had happened. We looked around, and I really wasn't one of them that looked around. Quite frankly, I was just kind of laying there trying to recover and in immense pain. But the grass was matted down around my Jeep in basically the shape of large footprints. And when I say we, Tom, Lori, Troy, they followed the footprints to the edge of the woods and kind of lost them in the woods. The only thing that we can figure, it had to be a Bigfoot by the way of the prints. And I've never felt such force before. I've been in automobile wrecks and never the power that I felt from it slamming my leg down. It slammed it down so bad that I suffered a lot of soft tissue damage, and it actually dented the floor of my Jeep. For it to dent a metal floor, that takes a lot of force.
Definitely. Oh, so I've got a question. You said that the Gugways, is that how you pronounce them? Gugwe? Gugwe?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay. So you said that they have a similar body to the Bigfoot. Is that what you
Correct.
said? And you're talking about the feet. Like, we don't know that much about them. So how did you know it wasn't one of those versus a Bigfoot?
I really don't. It very well could have been.
Okay. I was just curious.
It was either a Bigfoot or a Gugwe because they are built very similar other than the head. And it very well may have been because this was actually within about 130 yards of where Troy encountered the Gugwe a year ago.
See, and something like that, where something would grab a hold of like your ankle, maybe it just didn't know what it was, but I've never heard of a Bigfoot doing anything like that. But after you explained what the Gugwe was, it kind of makes more sense to think that it was maybe something more aggressive. But you never know. I honestly think that just like there are good people, bad people, they're good people, or they're good animals, bad animals / beings and creatures. But
Well, after it happened in my research, trying to find what happened to me, because I am 1/4 Native American, I'm actually a quarter Cherokee. I've talked with some Indian tribes, and the general consensus from the Indians, the Native Americans, is it was one of two things. It was either a Bigfoot warning me to leave, or it was a juvenile just being playful. And all three of the shaman that I spoke with all believe it was probably just a juvenile being playful, that it didn't mean to hurt me. But when you talk a juvenile that is, something that's 7 foot, 500 pounds, the power that they have, these things evidently don't know their own strength.
That could be very well true. So what do you think it is? What, in your gut instinct, what did you think it was?
Like I said, from the tracks, the first thing that came to mind was it was a Bigfoot. And the fact that the hand was able to wrap completely around my ankle while I still had my boots on, and my hand goes less than halfway around it. So it had to be something that was large, had a very large hand. Like I say, the power on this thing was just totally immense. Never in my life have I felt anything like this.
Well, you have to wonder, did it not know that you were human and maybe it just went and saw something warm and tried to grab it and then realized? Because I know you see animals do this all the time, especially like cats and dogs. They freak out like they don't know they're touching something and all of a sudden they're like a cat will go, lift up her paw and then she'll like slap, 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 you know, unlike maybe Bigfoot saw it was alive, was like, oh my gosh, and threw it down. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's just silly thought, but that's how animals react and people. We get scared.
And there again, that's very possible. I don't know. All I know is the damage that it did to my leg actually needs surgically repaired. I've tried physical therapy, and between physical therapy and time, it has not gotten any better. The doctors from the start said I needed, surgery on it to repair it. Being hard-headed like I am, it's like, nah, I'll heal, I'll get better. Well, no, I haven't. Quite frankly, my whole team has not and will not, unless they're listening tonight, know just how bad it is. But basically, my right leg is about useless.
And what did you say the doctor said? Didn't you say it was almost as if you were in a car accident? That's how badly it was destroyed. Okay.
Correct. It was, quote, severe trauma consistent with being in a car accident.
That's just terrible. Well, you're doing really well as far as emotionally with such a traumatic event like that.
No, I'm really not. Yes, I still have nightmares about it quite often. To be quite truthful, I've only been out once since it happened. I am planning on going out this weekend again with my team. Hopefully, it's one of those deals where you face your fears and you get over them.
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope that's how it works this weekend, but I'll let you ladies know.
Please do.
Please do. Please
I
do.
will.
Awesome. Awesome. So are you going to go out in Pennsylvania this weekend?
Yes, it'll be Indiana County, Pennsylvania again.
Awesome. Is that where that happened? Are you going to that same area?
Yes, I'm going to the exact same spot. I'm actually going to try to park in the exact same spot.
You're not going to sleep with your Jeep open, are you?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yes, I actually will, but with armed guards.
Oh.
Armed guards.
People are going to stay up all night?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
I would definitely set up some video cameras.
That's a great.
I have 6 trail cams that will be set surrounding the perimeter on video record.
Nice.
Do you think that they can sense those?
Yes, I do. My team proved out 3 years ago that they can see red light and that they can see starlight, which is the green light. The only color we found for sure that they cannot see is black light. Unfortunately, there is not a video cam manufacturer that uses black light to trigger their cameras. So I don't have a real good feeling that we're going to catch something on them, but still, I've got to put it out there and try.
I know a lot of people talk about them being able to see that light, but
Correct.
I suspect that they're hearing the light, because the lights actually make a very high pitched sound that most people can't hear, but I can hear them. It's very painful.
Well, like I say, we proved out 3 years ago, they can see the green light, they can see the red light. They cannot see black light.
So how do you know they can't see black light? What was your? I know we're getting close to break. Maybe you want to wait, Jen?
Let's take that to be continued after the break. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Kirk Reed. Stay tuned, everybody.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Am I doing okay?
You're doing great.
Thank you. It's hard to talk about that one. It really is.
I bet so. Just as a side note, in the back note here, I did look up Mi'kmaq and Ojibwe, and the Mi'kmaq language is related to the Ojibwe language.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, but even within the Ojibwe language, there are many different dialects. So from different reservation to different reservation, they'll pronounce words differently. Like when I was in Turtle Mountain, they said the Great Spirit as Je Manadu. Where on the Red Lake Reservation in Minnesota, where my family comes from, it's Gitche Manadu. So, there's different dialects that'll pronounce words differently. So there's the K dialect, the J dialect. There's different dialects. So even within the Ojibwe language, so the native languages change in when they do so. But I think that some Ojibwe might be able to understand some Mi'kmaq, because it's like a family tree of languages.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited to check out this.
I actually learned something.
Yeah. Somebody's asking something in the chat room that we're going to come back with asking too after you finish answering about the black light. So she's asking about trail cams. So we'll get to that after you answer the black light questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, me listen for Sarge. Thank you, Sarge.
Go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. You can find us online at She-Squatchers.com. And hey, won't you come on over to Facebook and like our Facebook page at She-Squatchers Official, and on YouTube, She-Squatchers Official. Please subscribe to our channel there. We would really appreciate you following us there. And so we're back with Kirk Reed, and Jenna was asking about the blacklight cameras.
What would you like to know about them?
Jenna, you're on mute.
I was just sorry about that. I tend to mute myself so no one can hear me. Anyway, Kirk, I was just wondering, how can you, what kind of experiments did you do to be able to tell that it did not see black light? I was just curious.
Actually, it was 100% by accident. The man that was chief of security, Hank, had a firearm with him, an AR-15. He had a particular scope on it that had 3 settings. The scope, it would project in black light, it would project in starlight, or it would project in infrared. We saw eyes. He put the crosshairs of the scope on it when it was set in black light. The creature never moved, never flinched, no reaction whatsoever. Unfortunately, black light does not give you a very good target window.
Visual.
Correct. He switched over to the red light. As soon as he did, the creature screamed and took off running. We had another creature, or may have been the same creature, come back in just outside of camp the next night. And once more, Hank had it on black light. When we saw it, he switched over to the green light. Same reaction. It reacted to the green light. It never reacted to the black light.
Well, I need to find out what the scope is so I can kind of do some research on it. When you have time, you let us know, okay?
All right.
I can definitely let you know exactly what it was.
So Kat is asking a question about trail cams. And she said, these lights on trail cams, are they needed to take pictures? I was thinking some black electrical tape over the indicator lights. And Sherry asks us further question saying, if it's the sound that they hear, would that work? Don't you need the lights to take a picture?
Well, I don't know that it is the actual sound, because both times that it did not react to the black light whatsoever was at about 90 to 100 yards. But they definitely, as I said, reacted to the red light and also to the green light. Now, going forward, 2 years ago, we tried several times to cover the lights on the trail cameras with colored cellophane, and it really didn't matter. It was as if they could still see the light of the cameras. I don't know whether it's the sound or what it is, but they react to red light, they react to green light.
I wonder what kind of frequencies, Jen. Do you know what kind of frequencies? You said you can hear them. I'm just wondering if anybody knows out there what frequencies that the green lights and red lights.
It's the infrared lights that I can hear. I haven't
Oh,
tried green or red lights.
okay.
The infrared light is what most trail cameras all operate with. There are a few out there that we have found that use starlight, which is the green light. We haven't had any luck with those also. And something that we also did notice, because of the delay on a trail cam from the time it actually picks something up to the time that it snaps the photo, if we say a Dogman or a Bigfoot can run approximately 40 miles an hour, from the time it would trigger the trail cam till the time the trail cam takes the photo, that creature is already out of the range of the trail cam if it is running.
Oh, I had never heard that before. That's an interesting
Yeah,
take
it's
on why they're
actually a
not on camera.
simple mathematical formula. I am an engineer by trade. We went ahead a year and a half ago, bought some very expensive trail cams, thinking that they would be better. And quite frankly, they still, at their 90-foot range, are about 15 foot out of range if a, shall we say, Bigfoot or Dogman is running by at a full run. By the time it triggers and it takes the photo, it's already out of range.
But here's the deal, though. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We did last year have something set off 2 trail cams that we had posted. Between the 2 of them, they took 9 pictures, and every time there was nothing in the picture, but yet something set them off.
Okay, here's my question. If this is happening, say you've got these trail cams up on these trees, if it's out in the woods, usually there's a lot more brush and trees and things in the way where a person couldn't even run. I just don't see even an animal running that fast through trees unless they're bobbing. Yeah, I mean, I understand that Bigfoot are bigger, that they're faster, that they've got all these abilities, agilities, but it just seems to me that to be able to run straight that fast, I mean, you're the engineer.
The woods are not the same in the rest of the country as they are in Minnesota. A lot of the places that have like pine trees, like in Pennsylvania and things, there is no underbrush. It is just trees
correct.
and pine
Oh,
needles.
so we're the lucky
that is-
ones.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
beautiful. So
It
that
is.
I mean that may be, why. I mean, I'm not saying that that's why, but the forests are different in every area.
That's a great point.
Sure.
Thank you.
Quite frankly, if I could now run, which I can't, I do good to just walk. But literally where we go, there is no underbrush. You're probably 8 foot up to the first limbs on a lot of these trees. Hell, you could run for 200 yards without ever touching anything and still be in a clear line of sight of the trail cams. But yet, the best of the cams that I have a 90-foot photographic range.
Have you heard of no glow trail cams or no glow cameras?
Yes, I have.
Do you know anything about those?
We know a little bit about one. They are expensive. We bought one, had the same effects. That actually happened to be one of the 2 trail cams that we caught these blank pictures on.
Okay, because somebody in the chat room was talking about the no glow trail cameras. And I'm like, don't know what those are. I'm going to ask Kirk.
Yeah, they actually, theoretically, they do not put out a light, but yet they still have a light to trigger them. And you may be on something about the frequency that they emit. Maybe it is that these creatures are actually hearing the light instead of seeing it. I don't know. But
Well,
I just
the
know
IR,
anything-
the ultraviolet or the infrared lights, I can hear those. And it's very high pitched and it hurts. And like I have that on one of my cameras and I can barely use it for very long because it just stings my ears. It's so bad.
Sure. And that may be what's going on with them also. That may be what causes them to actually run when they are going by the trail cameras. You are actually the first one I have ever heard that has said that.
Tammy, you can hear them, can't you?
Yeah, I can hear some of them, especially like the trail camera ones. Those are like really, really loud. The ones on the regular cameras, not so much. And like with the FLIR and stuff like that, I don't hear that, at all. But the trail camera ones are really loud. It's like just buzzing. Like
Sure,
the way that I would describe it is, the older cameras that were like digital, not the digital ones, but before the digital cameras, that when you push the button, it would like the flash would warm up before it took the picture. The noise that flash made when it was warming up is the sound that I hear with those trail cameras.
And I hear more of a high pitched squeal and more similar to my kids are all grown up now, but when they were in high school, they had these parent proof or teacher proof ringers on their cell phones, which were these high pitched frequencies that adults weren't supposed to be able to hear. So they could.
They just were supposed to be able to hear those.
So people over a certain age weren't supposed to be able to hear this. And so they could hear their ringer going on in school and their teacher wouldn't hear it. Well, one of my daughters was in the living room one night and I started hearing this and I'm like, what is that god awful sound? It's coming from your phone. What is that? That hurts my head. And she's like, you're not supposed to be able to hear that. And, but I also had the same thing happen at an office that I worked at where a computer chip and the monitors would go out and it would make this screaming high pitched sound. And it hurt so bad for when I would hear this. And once it started, it happened most of the time with that monitor. And they had to move the different monitors away from my office so that I wouldn't hear them. And no one else in the office could hear it. And my boss ended up calling the computer company and asking about this because nobody else could hear it except for me, and they thought maybe I was cuckoo. And they said, no, really, there is a sound that they make. Usually it's only kids that can hear that. Sometimes women can maintain that hearing range into those high frequencies, and I've definitely maintained the high frequency ranges. So,
Sure.
so
Sure. Quite frankly, women are more, shall we say, susceptible to keeping the hearing that they had as a teenager than what men are, simply because men are more often in an industrial environment where they're surrounded by loud noises, which causes you to lose hearing over time.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I worked in a plastic factory when I was younger in Massachusetts, and it was so loud. I know that I lost some of my hearing from working there, and I worked there for like 3 or 4 years, but definitely.
Sure.
So because I can hear the lights on those cameras, I just suspect that Bigfoot's hearing them too. And it's a
That very
painful
well
sound.
may be.
Yeah.
That very well may be, and that may be why they're always running when they go through. We did 7 years ago, 8 years ago actually now, we did catch at one point, we have a trail camera that I still have the SD card off of it that caught a Bigfoot from the waist down, where you can actually see basically the waist, the butt, the legs, one hand on it, and part of its forearm. But you can tell it was also at the time running.
So
So,
where is,
to
do you
me-
have this photo somewhere? I'm wanting to see it, sorry.
Yes, I do. I can send it to you.
Yes, please.
Not right now.
The only thing that we actually could surmise what happened is we believe the first Bigfoot ran by, followed by a second one, and the second Bigfoot was caught.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Yep. Yep, that's the only thing we can figure out whatsoever that happened.
Interesting. So, being that you've looked for Bigfoot in all these states up and down the East Coast and all the way west to Colorado, where do you think the majority of the population of Bigfoot lives? And what do you think the population looks like?
I think there is a whole lot more than what most people think. These creatures are masters of hiding. Quite frankly, I had some team members earlier this year go to Land Between the Lakes. They spent a week and a half down there searching, looking. They found signs of activity, actually had one sighting, but that was it. We've had numerous sightings in Kentucky, but still the most activity that we've had in any two states have been West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And Ohio is probably third on the list.
And we're just talking like Midwest to the East Coast and down. We're not talking about West Coast at all. Right.
Not West Coast. I have not been able to go out that far to hunt them. Like I say, I've been out to Colorado and everything east of Colorado. Although I will say Florida with their skunk ape is very active also when you get in the right areas.
So what do you think Bigfoot is?
I think Bigfoot is a hominoid, shall we say a relic hominoid. It's an undiscovered missing link. I don't believe it is an ape. I believe it is a primate of the ape/human family, but it has its own genetic branch. We know it's been around for thousands of years. The Indians have paintings of it going back at least 1,000 years. So it's something that was put on this earth. If anybody's familiar with the Loveland Caves in Nevada, Loveland Cave is a cave system in Nevada where the local Indians, the Paiutes, had legends of a large, red-haired, hairy man that was cannibalistic. Lo and behold, when it was investigated here about 8 years ago or so, they did find Native American bones that literally had been snapped in half, the bone marrow sucked out, and they also found a pair of homemade, shall we call them, flip-flops that were made out of reeds from the local lake that were consistent with the size of a Bigfoot foot, about 16 inches long by about 8 inches wide.
Wow. Any pictures of that, by the way? For any
You
chance?
could probably look that up.
Those are easily found on the internet. They are all over. Just do a Google search of Loveland Cave.
Thank
So
you.
were those giants or were they Bigfoot creatures?
Well, considering they were said to be 10 to 11 foot tall, covered with reddish hair, head to toe, I'm going to say they were probably Bigfoot.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you this, they're in the Sierra Nevadas. There are two type of Bigfoot that have been seen, that have been reported. Your normal brown to brownish black, which are said to be non-aggressive. And then the red-haired ones, which are said to be very aggressive and to kill people. The red ones very much fit into what was said to be inhabiting the Loveland Cave.
Very interesting. Another thing to look up later.
See, I'm giving you kids homework.
Yeah,
Yep,
you
I
are.
already wrote down the Loveland Caves. I'm going to be looking those up.
I did too.
Ooh,
I
we'll
know.
compare notes.
I think so.
I mean, it actually is very good proof to the existence of something. And when they carbon dated the bones, they only come back to about 300 years ago. Which says to me that these things evidently inhabited these caves up until then. People tend to think that Bigfoot is possibly Gigantopithecus that actually lived, but Gigantopithecus, they say, died out 10,000 years ago or longer. Most people put it at 100,000 years ago. Well, if we had this killing Native Americans 300 years ago and sucking the bone marrow out of their bones, that tells me it's not excuse me, it's hard to pronounce, Gigantopithecus. It's something else.
Kat is in the chat room asking about the location of the cave. She said, is it Loveland, Ohio or Lovelock, Nevada?
Loveland, Nevada is what it is said to be. Do a Google search of Loveland Caves, and the Nevada site is it.
Okay. All right. Well, then she can look into that. Awesome. Very cool. So, I've heard people talk about, and we've seen a little bit of these lights when we're out looking for Bigfoot. Have you encountered the strange lights? What color have you What colors have you encountered, and what do you think the connection, if any, is there?
Green, blue, yellow, red. I don't know. It is very, very interesting. A fellow researcher from up here actually believes that it may have something to do with UFOs. I'm quite frankly, I don't know what to believe of them. It just seems like about a third of the time we encounter Bigfoot, we encounter the lights. I've heard people try to explain it as ball lightning. Yes, I've seen lightning with a blue hue to it. I've seen white lightning, yellow lightning. But once you get into the green and the red, no, that's not lightning. I don't have an explanation for what it is, other than it is something freaky.
Are you seeing them before or after or during a sighting of Bigfoot?
All of the above. Usually before or during, though.
How close are you getting to the lights?
You know, that's really hard to say, and that's simply because you see them, they're there for maybe 15 seconds, 30 seconds at the most, and then they're gone. But I'd say probably within 70, 80 yards. We actually have a very good range finder. Tried to get the range on one night and also shot it with a flare, and it did not show up on either of them.
It didn't show up on the flare?
It did not show up on the flare.
What about night vision camera?
Did not show up on night vision. It was right there. The naked eye could see it plain as day, but you could not see it on night vision. You could not see it on thermal. You could not see it on flare. Only the naked eye.
Okay. Well,
To me, that was very interesting because I believed being light, it should have had a heat signature, which means flare should have picked it up, but it did not.
I've encountered some very up close and personal, and they really didn't have a temperature. But, you know, so that doesn't surprise me. But I think that there was one instance that we did catch it on night vision. Well, more than one instance, because we have the Strange Lights video on our YouTube channel that
Sure.
caught the lights. But then
Sure.
we also did catch some that we didn't put up on our YouTube channel because they were really hard to see. But it was like the very first time that we went out, we caught some over the lake, coming up over the lake. So, but they were really far away, and it was hard to see them. So I never put it up. But yeah.
We also had something else happen. I was not there at the time. My team reported back to me when they were at LBL. They encountered something in one of the 14 cemeteries that is there. They were out searching at night. They actually encountered something in front of them they put it about 15 yards away that had no heat signature. It was large, and then it was just gone.
And that was one of the lights?
No, that was some type of creature.
That music tells us we are at the end of the show, and we have to say goodbye to you, Kirk. But can you tell us real quick where people can reach you online, just on Facebook, Kirk Reed?
Sure, Kirk Reed or Northeast Cryptid Investigation Services, either one. I'm on Facebook. Reach out to me. I'll answer any questions that you want.
Thank you so much, Kirk, for coming on the show tonight. We appreciate you very much. Thank you to my She-Squatchers, Jena and Tammy, for coming on tonight. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.